G'day, Darren here again. So last video we created a framework. I should probably put it up the top here. This is our overall framework, just to get our terms right. And in this video, I really want to talk about the model and the importance of your model that assesses your strategy. A model assesses your investment strategy based on your circumstance and your goals, or your client's circumstance and goals, gives you some output that allows you to assess whether it's a fair strategy for your client, and potentially enables you to actually compare those strategies one against the other. So what could a model look like? I'm going to start with one that is most commonly used. It's on the government website, MoneySmart. It allows you to input your strategy's expected return and how much you want to spend each year. So I'm going to get 7% per annum and I want to spend $50,000. You input your circumstances, your starting super balance or retirement balance, your home ownership, your marital status. That enables it to calculate your government pension. And your goal was basically just to spend that income and see how long it lasts. And that's it. So let's kind of think about this model and actually what it's missing. It's something that I'm absolutely not, I totally disagree with this approach, but I want to go through it because I want to highlight what it misses so that when we build our new model, we know we're capturing these things. And amazingly, the strategy you will pick based on this model is very different to the strategy you'll pick based on what I think is a model that captures more of the actual realities of retirement. So let's just depict two charts. Let's just depict how this model works by two charts. The first is going to be your wealth. This is dollars here. And let's say we start with 400,000 in retirement savings at age 67. So this is your age. The next chart below I'm going to line up with it is going to be your income. And this may be an output of the model, but in this case it's actually an input. You put how much you think you're going to need each year in retirement. So I'm going to put in here that I think I need $50,000, 50K. Sorry, that's not very well written. And each year, this model is going to project one scenario that I achieve my expected investment return, spend my target level of spending, and that's going to lower my balance each year until I run out at an age. The model may capture that at this age, it may capture that at different levels. I may get a partial pension, I may get a full pension. And at these levels of means test or asset level, you might start to get a small pension, and as your wealth decreases, the government pension kicks in further and it gets you to some level of full pension. Let's say that's 22,000K. And then the rest is subsidized from your account-based pension. With this sophistication, it may project out that your retirement savings last a bit longer because of the role of the government pension. And that may take you to an age of 92 and spending this target amount. And for a 67-year-old, knowing their sex and profession, we may have that their life expectancy is only 87. So basically this model says spending your target income, given your starting balance, and achieving your expected return each year is going to give you that target income in real terms, inflation adjusted terms, till age 92. That's 5 years better than life expectancy. That's good. That's a good buffer. We like this strategy. Invest in that fund and spend that amount. Once again, this misses a whole raft of risks and scenarios that are very likely, highly likely to play out in one way or another. This scenario will not happen. This is an average return, an average life expectancy, and a consistent amount of spending. There are many issues with this model. The first is that your investment risk. So what happens if I don't get 7%? This is very simple, of course. And what if I average out on 4% per annum? And what if that takes me all the way to a very younger age of this income lasting? Do I wish I actually spent less here so that I could pay for my groceries and essential needs later in life? Do I need to consider that scenario as potentially occurring? What is the likelihood of it? And what penalty on this strategy am I going to place if this plays out? How painful will it be to me? I'll get to this in more detail later because I know that was a little abstract, but we can quantify and measure all of this and adjust for it. Basically, investment risk, not getting what you thought. The next is sequencing risk. So that even if your strategy does deliver 7% per annum, because that's what you expected or whatever your expectation was, the volatility of that strategy may mean, particularly if you have very poor years at the start, even if it averages out at 7, losing a lot at the start and then continuing to spend at the same rate is not giving your capital the opportunity to respond or to catch up when the recovery happens, and you'll be much worse off. And that's the term sequencing risk, which most of you would be familiar with. The other big one is that if this person is a couple and this is their main source of income, well, actually, as a couple is likely to have at least one member live to 92, and that's a 50% chance. There would be a significant chance that they live beyond 100, and that's 8 years of having no income. The probability of one of this couple living past 100 may be 15%, 20%. I should have known that before starting this film. But let's say it's 10%. Is that risk of living without 8 years of income a satisfactory risk to take given that probability? How do we manage that? How do we measure it? How do we account for it back here in setting our strategy, thinking about how much we spend, what we're going to invest in? All entirely ignored by this very simple model, by this very simple approach of projecting out one scenario. The other one is very important. It's a little harder to get your head around, is this person's goals and priorities. 50K might be their essentials, but what if actually they could live off 40K? And the extra 10 is really to do the extra the stuff you want to do in your 70s. What if also they had the goal to leave $100,000 to their children in a bequest? What if also beyond that they had some very aspirational dreams of traveling the world or paying for their child's education? This model does not compare and contrast through time and through necessity how important each dollar is in being spent. $1 on essentials in your 90s is far more important than $1 on aspirational hopes and dreams or splurging in your 70s. But how can you trade this off without any sort of sophistication in your model? You can't, and this definitely doesn't. So it lacks any ability to prioritize. And prioritization of consumption is one of the most powerful things through this video that I'm going to show you adds value. I believe, and will hopefully show you and you will believe, that being able to prioritize consumption, be dynamic with your consumption, have confidence in what you can spend, but also have confidence when you need to pull back and trade off dollars now and in the future amongst various goals, is more powerful in adding happiness to an individual's retirement strategy. It is more important than the investment strategy, which everyone spends far too much time on. And I, as someone who runs investment funds, it's quite humbling to say, but You've got to get your consumption and prioritization right to give the investor the confidence they need to live their retirement to the maximum they can. Prioritization and consumption, I'll say. So we've missed the investment risk in this model, chance that things don't play out like we can. How likely is that? Sequencing risk is ignored, longevity risk is ignored, and there's no accounting for prioritization and consumption. Next video, I want to talk about what we've built, which is another model, back to our framework. This is the first model, and that's what you get a lot of places. It doesn't account for all the scenarios that aren't your average. In the next video, I'm going to talk you through a model that does do all this. It simulates many returns. It simulates scenarios of sequencing, of longevity. It simulates poor scenarios and great scenarios. It then assesses them all using a scoring framework. We're going to actually capture what the person's goals are and rank them and give higher points for things that are absolutely critical, like essentials or health costs. We're going to give lower scores for things that are just aspirational, like an extra holiday in the 70s or paying for grandchildren's education. So we're going to have ways of ranking their goals and their dollars spent. We're going to capture their circumstance, and we're going to build a model that simulates all of this in many thousands of scenarios to allow us to assess the strategy for that person. We're going to see how it looks, and we're going to see whether the most common strategy used out there, from what I've seen, how that stacks up to some other strategies we could start to consider now that we've got this framework. So I hope this is interesting. It's not for everyone, but it's good stuff, and we're going to really come out of this after the next couple of videos with opportunity to add value to our clients beyond what we ever could do without a proper framework for assessing retirement strategies. And that's my goal, and that's why my aim is to improve the way Australians manage retirement. Thank you.